Hello, everyone. Let me quickly share my screen. I hope you can see it now.
Yeah, looks good.
Very good. So in the past years, serverless became the buzzword. And probably you may have already started working on it, or whether it's inconsciously or not. But I'm pretty sure most of you have heard the term serverless. And some of you may think about Lambdas when hearing the term serverless, even though Lambdas are just a tiny function in that huge serverless space. So I actually found so many blog posts, so many articles about AWS Lambda, where that's why I was asking, is Lambdas or are Lambdas the Army's Swift knife in modern software development architecture? So can it do microservices? Can it do full stack? Can we use the database, or even though can we use machine learning? So that's also my agenda today. So we will first talk about a bit about what is AWS Lambda, what's its purpose, how we can build a microservice by using AWS Lambda. I used a framework called Serverless Stack. Is it possible to do ETL and ELT with Lambdas? And then we also check if it's if we can do a monolith or a full stack by using a framework called Django or Ruby on Rails. And then in the end, we also will find out if we can do now machine learning with AWS Lambda. And in the end, I will wrap up and also give a conclusion. But first of all, about myself. So my name is John. I'm a full stack and partially a cloud engineer located in Berlin. And I will share my links later on. But I was quite active on CodePen, kind of active on GitHub and Twitter. So AWS Lambda was first introduced at the reInvent in 2014 in Vegas. So it had the headline that it was a compute event-based compute option on AWS. So that means you have your business logic and put it into a cloud without SSHing into a server, without managing underlying server. So here you see when it was first introduced by Werner Vogels, the CTO of Amazon. And he also mentioned that it's supposed to stitch several services together. So Lambdas always need an event, sort of like a trigger, and then it stitches several services together. So now I was talking a lot about serverless. And even though in this talk I'm not mentioning, or I will not dive deep into the term serverless, but still I'm quite curious what you think about serverless. So if you scan this QR code, you will get to Menti, and then you can enter a word when hearing the term serverless. So really, I would like to have your opinion about what do you think about serverless, or what comes to your mind when hearing this term. So this will be also here in the header, so you can also join by using this code. So first of all, microservices. So what are microservices? So microservices are an architectural and organizational approach to software development where software is composed of small independent services that communicate over well-defined APIs. That's a definition by AWS. So, and they really emphasize the term small independent service, which are communicating over a well-defined API. I will show you a demo, which I used by using the serverless stack, which is on top of this CDK. And basically, it looks like this. So it's a simple CRUD application. So we have 4 tiny functions. So that's also the intention of having Lambdas, because the purpose of a Lambda should be they're serving just one single purpose or one single function. So because it's an event-driven compute service, we also have something, an API gateway, which triggers the Lambda. With that, I use the serverless stack. So the serverless stack is quite cool because you can do live Lambda coding, which is also quite interesting. and I already have prepared and deployed it. So it is a simple quad service, which where you can create, read nodes, delete them, and also update them. And right now you can see it's empty, so there's nothing in it. So, and if we now posting something, so this content will be hello world, you could also see in real life that it's automatically deployed to AWS. So let's check that. So we put into the list the hello world, and we have here also the node ID. So I can also use getting this just a single node. Okay, how does it look like in the console? So the serverless stack also gives us some debug lambdas, but we shouldn't focus on that. So here we can see the actually 5 lambdas, because there's one lambda for listing all the nodes. So we have the post lambda, we have the put lambda for updating, post for creating, and get nodes for getting all the nodes, delete node, and get node ID for getting just a single lambda. Let's try to delete it. Again, you can really see that it was automatically deployed and also automatically executed. So this shouldn't be there, and it cannot be found. So that's why it gives me this error. But if we call, so actually the node should be empty. I don't know what's happened here, but basically it should be deleted. Yeah. It is quite strict because I have the trailing slash in the end. So yeah, as you can see, the array is empty. So this is so I think we all can agree that this is something which Lambda can do best, or can do quite good. And now I was questioning, can it do ETL? So first of all, what is ETL? So IBM came up with this definition of ETL as a process that extracts, transforms, and loads data from multiple sources to a data warehouse or other unified data repository. So because I was thinking each function could be, or a Lambda could be, which is extracting or leveraging the data. Another function could then transform the data. And then the last Lambda could load the data into the data repository or data warehouse. So we still fulfill the purpose of a single function, that we have here an OLTP database or application database where we leverage the data, and then we trigger another Lambda, which is then transforming the data. Let's say we want to have an aggregated number of users we have currently on our application. Then the last Lambda could then load it into a data warehouse. The data warehouse could be an Postgres database or a Redshift. So basically a place where we can perform analytics on it. So then there's this term, not ETL, but ELT. So basically we swapping transformation and load. So, and this is also quite flexible by using Lambda, because we can then just point the extract Lambda to loading it first, and then once it's in the database or data warehouse, then we could perform a Lambda on it, which does the transformation. This is an architecture for maybe a modern ELT stack. So in this case, we have a DynamoDB table, a DynamoDB database, and which has DynamoDB streams enabled. So streams are always activated whenever something happened on the database. So that's quite cool, because this is already the extract function for us. That then triggers a load Lambda. So we get, for example, a new entry, and then the load Lambda is taking this entry and using an SDK, Postgres SDK, whatever, and putting it into a data warehouse. And then there's this new cool tool called dbt, where you can perform transformation on it. So yeah, this is unfortunately, I don't have a demo for that. I didn't have the time for it. But this is how maybe a ETL or ELT could look like. And then I was thinking, okay, well, how about a monolith, aka full stack? So for a monolith, we need to have, or what is actually a full stack? So in Webopedia, we have Webopedia is saying in technology development, a full stack refers to an entire computer system or application from the front end to the back end and the code that connects the two. So we have seen the backend. So we have seen that something happened in the background. And then I think we can all agree that backend stuff, that's something which Lambdas can do best or can do pretty well. But what about frontend? So meaning frontend, we need to serve static files. What are static files? So static files could be images, could be HTML, CSS. So for that, I was also doing some research, and there is this framework called Claudia.js, which is a framework for deploying Lambdas. And in this case, I use an Express application with Claudia.js. So let's see how it looks like. So for that, I go into the console. I have already deployed it. And we have here a function called Claudia Express. And what it is, it's in the end a simple Express application. So we have a static folder. In this static folder, we have an image. This is how an image looks like. So basically, we are performing an Express, or we set up an Express application. And this Express application serves us the static file. So let's go to API Gateway, because everything goes with API Gateway. That's the big buddy, the best buddy of Lambda. And here we have an API called Claudia Express. We have the latest version. We have the URL. And voila, we can see that Lambdas also can perform static files. So this is the HTML body, and this is the image which I have put into the Express application. So, but the thing is, we have to put the node modules into it, which is actually not quite good, because it will then bloat the Lambda quite big. So right now we are quite lucky, but I tried it with Vue.js and React.js, and that was quite big. So it's not really recommended to use frontend with Lambda. So better is to use other serverless options like S3 or and then put a cloud front in front of it. For this demo, I wanted to show you that Lambdas are also capable of serving static files. So that means, okay, we have now backend and we have now frontend. So what about full stack? So for that, I have created a Lambda with Zapper. So I deployed a Django application on just a single Lambda by using the Zapper framework. So let's go back to the console. Let's look for Zapper. And here is the single Lambda, which is a Python, almost 20 megabyte. And so the code is non-seeable because it's zipped and too large to inline it. But basically, this is the whole, this is the Lambda. And again, we can go to the API gateway to look for Django. We have here a stage called dev. And then let's check the URL, and we see something. So this is actually coming from Django. So it is a Django application because this says Django tried this URL pattern. So apparently I didn't have an index HTML configured, but it shows me what I have configured. So in this case, I have admin and pods. So let's go to the admin. Let me quickly show you the admins page. So still we are on this Lambda. I can now log in with the admin, and I also have connected with the database. So that's why we can create a test user and save it. No. And then we can also edit some data on this user. So as you can see, we created a user. So we used the full Django application in one single Lambda. So I have not fulfilled the tutorial yet, but this is another service. When you do the Django tutorial, then you can also create your own services in this in the tutorial. It's called polls, and I did it so far to show the hello world. So then one thing I would like to show you is the Ruby on Rails Lambda. So it's called Lambi. So going back to the console, let's show you the Rails application. One thing which is to mention is this is now as a package type image. So the rest are zip files which have a identified or a clear runtime, but this one actually has the package type image. So this is quite new in the last reInvent in last year. They introduced now container for Lambdas. And what this Lambda is doing, it wrapped the Ruby on Rails into a container, and then you can spin it up into a Lambda. So what is the benefit of it? So now you don't need to spin up an ECS cluster, define your target groups, put a load balancer in front of it. Now you can really use this container, ask your big buddy API gateway to direct to the Lambda, and then you can hopefully see the Rails application. So you can see, you're on Rails. So this is really a Rails application deployed or powered by Lambi on a single Lambda. Now I was wondering, can you do so with this new container image functionalities? AWS is now also giving 10 gigs of memory, which is quite big for a supposedly small function. And then I was asking, can you do machine learning on it? So first of all, what is machine learning? So machine learning is the process of using mathematical models of data to help a computer learn without direct instruction. And it's considered a subset of artificial intelligence. That's coming from Microsoft Azure. A small demo where I use the CDK patterns. So Matt Coulter, the creator of the CDK pattern, he came up with the predictive Lambda. So again, we have our API gateway. This triggers a Lambda, which has a container on it, which has the scikit learn container in it, and it's using Docker. And what we will see, so he created for this example, maybe I can show you the code as well. So he uses scikit to check the nearest chipotle to a given latitude and longitude. And in here, he had trained a model. So with this Docker container, you will train the model. And then he used the normal CDK infrastructure to deploy the Lambda. So he uses the CDK package, which has a Docker image function where he deployed this folder. The folder must have a Docker file. Must have a Docker file. And basically this Docker file is doing some training. And then in the end, it gives me by hitting this endpoint that the nearest chipotle is 50 or 583 Stillwater Avenue, Bangor, in the US. So apparently he had put some longitude and latitude for us. So, and this is the closest Chipotle for us. Okay, so but actually I didn't have the time to do another example because this is quite, I don't know, too static, I would say. But I was thinking of maybe writing a blog post about it or maybe do another presentation on it. To wrap up, what is AWS Lambda? So really, you code without thinking about servers. So right now we have not touched any servers, but still run some applications on it. It is all managed by AWS. And yeah, the naming is coming from computer science, which abstract underlying function. And yeah, as I said, the best buddy is the API gateway, but there are other triggers. We have seen the DynamoDB stream, but also event bus for CloudWatch events. This could be also a trigger for triggering a Lambda or S3 triggers. Or there are also third libraries triggers like Datadog, webhooks, etc. I was showing you mainly Node.js code, a bit of Python, but there are also other runtimes available, such as Java, Go, C#, and also the custom runtime. So if you have, or if you want to play with Rust and you would like to use Rust in your Lambda, then it is, you can use it. Now with the container, you could really spin up anything you'd like. And now you have also memories up to 10 gigabyte. The tiniest, the smallest option is 128 megabyte. And the execution time, it's running up to 50 minutes. So now back to our question. What is serverless? Yeah, you care about serverless. That's how I phrase it. There is still sometimes where you need to go to the server and set up something, but really you care about serverless than you should, than you did before. Pay as you go, you really pay only the execution time. It automatically scales for you. It is always there for you as long as API gateway is there, and it's developer friendly. It means that you could use any programming language, and now with a container, you could use anything which you are familiar with to spin up a Lambda. Great, so let's quickly check the Menti. Oh, nice. Yeah, no servers, hype. Black box, pay per usage. All right. Thank you for participating. Thanks for listening. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, John, for sharing.